and welcome to the Gone Traveling Podcast, where we are looking at the BKT EuroCup, the 2024-25 season of Road to Greatness. Sergio Llebes is with me as always, and we are looking at really an incredible round 12 of games. Sergio, how you doing?
Hi, David. I'm doing well. I hope everyone's doing well as well. We're around another round. EuroCup this season is giving us a lot of interesting rounds, and the standings are very tight and in both groups. And a ticket for the playoffs is gonna be expensive.
Yeah, I think the word I used last week, last
Hmm.
round was wow. And I think the word I'm going to use this week is incredible.
Yeah,
We had two overtime games. We had no lead being safe. Juventud almost lost a 27-point lead. Ankara did lose a 17-point lead. Tel Aviv lost a 10-point lead with 2 minutes left. Ulm saw a 25-point lead go down to eight. Came back from 19 to 2. Um, and we didn't even talk about the game that I'll talk about in a couple minutes. But as we do in this, we always pick a game plus two players to kind of cover the round of action, and we're gonna let Sergio start with the
yeah,
team he's at on
uh,
all the home games, and that is the only undefeated team
yeah.
left in the standings, and I don't see
I'm
when they're going to lose. Valencia.
Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all, to bother you with Valencia again, but I think it's inevitable to talk about a team that's making history, literally. So we gotta see some key points where Valencia in this victory against Cluj-Napoca, because uh, I don't know how to explain the impact of Pedro Martinez in this team. If you followed a little bit Valencia last year with Alex Mumbrú in EuroLeague, with a lot of difficulties to be regular and to score the ball in the basket. So this year something changed. The play style is totally different. Players are free to play. And as Nate Sestina said yesterday, he was explaining why this type of games are happening in La Fonteta and in the team is because they train really, really, really hard, and the difficulty of the trainings are is making that the game seem easy for them. It seems like very cliche or something, but if you pass away from La Alquería, the facilities of Valencia Basket, and if the team is training, you can see them that they are in a military camp or something like that, literally. And this this type of games only show the potential of Valencia in a not this season, but in a mid range from 2 3 years from now. And yeah, Valencia in the first 13 minutes scored 52 points, sorry, in the first 13 and 45 seconds, with 12 out of 12 in two-pointers and 7 out of 12 in three-pointers. Only five field goals missed in 13 minutes to score 52 points. It's incredible. And the history made is because Valencia scored 73 points in the half. Lokomotiv had the record 4 years ago in 2020. They scored 71 against Antwerp, but with this type of stats, it's impossible not to pass that number. Montero had 12 in the first half. Josep Puerto, someone we had to talk about in some episode because he's stepping 3 kilometers away from what was expected from him. And yeah, then Cluj was kind of resilient. Valencia slowed down a little bit, but Cluj was took his pride and won the third quarter, and then tried to manage the game a little bit, and only the victory was by 28 points, something that seems almost positive if you score 73 points, if your rival scores 73 points, sorry. So yeah, first half was very fun for the local fans, but second part, you didn't know what to expect, and it got kind of boring. That's something that you and I was talking before, that Valencia is so dominant that they make mostly of the games kind of boring.
So they've passed the 100-point mark 7 times
Yeah,
this season, and that's a competition record. And they
yeah,
have already done it in 11, 11 games. And they've only lost twice this year. They lost against Manresa way back
in
in
the first
Manresa,
game. Yeah,
back in the first game of the season for the in the Spanish league, and then lost 102-99 back on November 17th, also on the road at Barcelona, undefeated at home. It's just crazy, and I think the history of it is the reason why it's worth it to talk about it.
yeah. Only
Um,
to inform that Chris Jones got injured and they are going to follow him. But
yeah, but Chris Jones actually
yeah,
came late to the team, so
yeah, uh, that's what I'm about to say. That the positive thing in this team is that no matter who plays, that everyone's doing the exact same thing. Semi OCLA is like kind of slow these last 3 4 games, or two or three, and it doesn't matter. Everyone's stepping up.
yeah, let's move on because there's a lot of amazing action, and I'm gonna I want to. So I watched the Buducnost Trento game. I started about whatever midway fourth quarter whatever,
Mhm.
and I knew the game went to overtime. Buducnost against Trento. I knew the game went to overtime, and and then I was watching and I said, how is this game gonna go to overtime? Uh, they the Trento was down by 6 points with
Yeah.
about 7 seconds left. Uh, and then they get a steal corner three, and then Suleiman misses two free throws with 3.5 seconds left, and there's a buzzer beater about near half court off the glass to send the game to overtime. And it's just like, how did that happen? And then they almost did it again in overtime. It was 106-100 with 50 seconds left, and they made it a 1 point game with 24 seconds left. So Buducnost ended up winning, massive victory for Buducnost because obviously they're in a dogfight for the playoffs at 5-7 now, one game behind Wolves for the final spot, whereas Trento, big loss, hurts them, goes down to 4-8, but really just I think probably one of the I think the craziest of the craziness that we had this week was
Yeah.
Buducnost actually Trento actually sending that game to overtime. I don't really, if you go and watch it, you'll and it's actually worth your time to actually go back and watch the last 35 seconds of it, and you're like, this game is going to order overtime? Seriously? So that's what I wanted to say about Buducnost and Trento.
We talked about Jordan Ford in the first episodes as one of the figures that's going to be one of the prolific scorers of the competition, and also one of the clutch players because he's stepping up in sub crunch times for Trento, and he's one of the most positive figures that came to the competition this year, and really really good for him and for Trento for having him. Yeah.
Okay, so who do you want
Okay.
to bring up now as your top player?
Mfiondu Kabengele, I think he's worth it to mention because we are seeing a very different Venezia from the team that started in earlier in the season. Obviously, because of all the injured players that Neven España had, and and that coach didn't even finish the game, but Venezia managed to win Bourges on the road, and now they have 4 wins of the last 5 games, and they are tied with Bourges and Cluj in a playoff spot. So for a playoff spot, we talked earlier in another episodes that these games were going to be key for and very important for Venezia, and they are making it. They have a very strong core with Canadians, as we talked, but also they have a very good starting five or 5, 6 players that are worth to watch, and one of them is Kabengele. He's a rating 15 points and 10 rebounds. He's a rating a double double, and he's uh, one of the best centers in the competition. He's NBA caliber. He literally was in the NBA. So he scored 26 points. He had 31 PIR, also 10 rebounds, 3 of them offensive. He was also 1 block. He was perfect for Venezia, and his his percentages from the field goal are also really interesting, because he's had 64 in two-pointers, 64%, and also 41% in triples. I know the volume is very low. He shot only 12 and scored 5, but he can do that, and maybe he can maximize that in earlier. But yeah, but with this win, 6-6, something that seemed impossible, because if I'm not wrong, Venezia started losing the first 5 games or the first 4 games, and yeah, next round for them is facing the unbeaten Valencia Basket, and it's going to be a very good test for them. But that's kind of far away in 2025. So yeah,
We
Kabengele
can
and
we can
Valencia
talk about
for
that
me.
next year.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were 1-3. They beat Aris to start the
1-3.
season. The
Sorry.
the one thing that they do have a little bit of a they kind of are have their hands tied is that they lost both games to Cedevita, and they actually do not have the tiebreaker with Borg, because Borg won the first game by 22. And they also lost the game earlier this season by 8 points to Cluj, and Cluj is their round 15 game. So they really need to win that game, and really need to win it by 9 points to at least get the tiebreaker on one of those teams. I just wanted to really touch on Borg just really quick, because they came back. They made it. It was a 19-point deficit, and they made it a 2-point game. And Borg has really struggled this the last whatever, two months or so defensively. And it looked like maybe they had kind of found their way back. Over the weekend, they beat league leader Cholet by
Mhm.
35 points in Cholet. Gave up only 67 points. Ended up losing this one, obviously, and giving up 102 is not ideal. But maybe coming back a
Mhm.
little bit to that defensive mentality is what they really need to do. I want to talk about Marcio Santos
Yeah.
over at Ulm. 20 points, three of three threes. He scored 10 of Ulm's first 19 points, and did all of that production in just 19 minutes. As I mentioned, Ulm they had a 25-point lead. Looked like they were cruising, and it did go down to 8. But they kind of pushed the game back away, 22-2 run. And they it was actually sort of, I think the fans were kind of like, oh no, not again. They actually over the weekend in the league, they lost their lead in the league with a home loss 69-67 to Heidelberg. Lost a 19-point lead in the third quarter. And but to go back to Santos, he had the first 9 points and 12 of the first 15 points in the week in last week's win over Juventud ended with 14 points. He also had a 23 and 11 rebound game against Trento. And this is the guy that, is new on the landscape here in Europe. He struggled in the early season. He had an infection and was kind of sick and weak, but he's 6'9" big man, can shoot, and he's actually has a pretty big uh um he has a trophy case. He won the 22-23 Basketball Champions League America and the FIBA Intercontinental Cup with France. And then also there's obviously that connection with Ulm Brazil. First there was Cristiano
Mhm.
Felicio, then came
Yeah.
Cabocla and Santos. Last season they had Jorginho, and now he's the next guy. So, and now we're seeing it. Santos is really playing a massive role in this team, and really strong, giving them the strong start. With giving that presence inside, but also a guy that can shoot the ball outside as well.
Yeah, he's kind of a stretch five with all the good things from a big center also. So yeah, as you said, the director also explained this season that their philosophy of getting players from non-typical markets like Brazil. Who would have thought about Brazil if you are an European club to work with youngsters? So all the credit for them because they are making big names out of their work. So one of them is Marcio Santos, and we're going to watch him very early in some very good team.
All
Yeah.
right, who you got next?
I think we should talk about Trey Woodbury from Aris because Aris, not in a surprisingly way, but they won to Letcabelis 81 to 66, sorry. And Aris, the locals, had Trey Woodbury scoring 15 points in the first half. And he was out for 5 games due to an injury, and he came back 1 month later. And Woodbury was brilliant to make 25 points. He was very good in the last 2 games before he got injured. He scored 14 against Bourg and 19 against Valencia, and almost beat Valencia. So he hit back-to-back three-pointers also late in the fourth quarter to seal the victory. So he was very good to build the scoring of the game, and then he was clutch. So key player. He was last year in Bamberg, and he was born in Hawaii. He didn't really shine in during his high school period or his college period. He was a four-star recruit from Clark High School in Las Vegas. Uh, he averaged 14 points, but then he went to Nevada. He didn't get any chances in his first year. Then he had his sophomore year and he played all 13 games, but didn't really shine also. Then he had the COVID period in his junior year, and he led Utah Valley University. He transferred, so he could earn all WAC honors. So then he made the return after recovering from a knee injury. He didn't really get any chances then, and he went undrafted. So he tried overseas in Bamberg. He made really good there, averaging 14 points per game in BBL. And now he's making his name in Aris. Aris, we talked it before. They have very good names now, but it seems a little bit late to compete for something right now and to adjust all the pieces to make this a very good team. They have some good players, but I don't think they have the enough time to do it.
He said that he had the two big games before he got injured,
Yeah.
and that was rounds 6 and 7, and the
Hmm.
five games, the first 5 rounds of the season, he only had 24 points total. This is his second season
Yeah.
in the first season in the Euro Cup. And yeah, I mean, he was able to, get a little bit of a taste of the of European basketball last year in Bamberg, and yeah, he's showing off. Happy to see it. Let's move to another game. Last game that
Yeah.
we're going to touch on is Juventud. We, uh, the yeah, I would have liked to have seen Sopot actually win. They almost did it. They
This
they
was the ref
nearly
time.
it was a
Yeah.
27-point deficit, Jovetot, and they ended up losing. Yannick Krag for the Spanish had a big game, 20 points, and he had 19 points in the previous 3 games combined. So he'd been averaging only 5.5 points per game. Had 17 points in the first half. And what I liked about it was that he had the big game, despite all these like recent additions, Sam
Mm.
Decker,
Yeah.
Mia Oni. Okay, those guys don't necessarily take his role, but the fact that he's able to do it, and that big game came after he scored a season high 12 points in the win over Tenerife over the weekend. And the 20 points was actually just short of his career high in Spain. Basically, he had 22 points last season against the beginning of last season against Saragossa. He had actually 24 points going back to 24 points he had against for Prat in March of 22 in Leb Silver. But his two biggest games came for the Dutch national team. One, he had 33 points in the 2022 U20 Eurobasket Division B against Switzerland,
Yeah.
33 points, and he actually had 23 points against at this for the senior team in a World Cup qualifier against Georgia. This is a guy that is is sort of representative of the Juventud philosophy, where you bring in a guy, let them cook in your youth system, and then give him a chance. He's been with them since 2019 when we was 17, and this is his third season, full season with the senior team. He's still only 22. He'll play this entire year. Won't turn 23 until the beginning or till after the start of next season, and has already played more than 40 games in the Euro Cup. So Yannick Krag, a big game. Enjoy seeing him kind of
He,
step up, and would like to see what's going to happen.
he's my favorite player from Juventud. He's shown that with 22 years old, he can do everything offensively. He's a three-level scorer for me, in my opinion. So uh, he's got a lot of potential, and as you said, Yannick is someone to watch. Yeah.
All right. So we have this is where we would usually look ahead. Oh, wait, is there anything else you want to touch about from this past week? I mean, like I said, there are a lot of great games.
Yeah,
Just
I think we gotta mention very briefly and quickly that Bahcesehir won to Gran Canaria in a battle of to get the leadership in Group A, and they shown that they are the strongest team in Group A right now. Gran Canaria made a big effort with Mike Toby commanding with 22 PIR, but Tyler Cavanaugh, Taya Diase, Jalene Smith, Seamus Hazer all made a choral, a very group work. So Bahcesehir is the team to beat with Valencia right now this year.
and a big bounce back victory after losing
Yeah,
the week
of course.
before against Besiktas. Yeah, with all these comebacks, you kind of forget, and it was the first game of the round that we had actually a game for first place over in Group A. Very good on you to to bring that back up. Um, yeah, for a couple of these games, really go back and watch, the at least full highlights, or even go back and watch the final two
Yeah.
minutes of the Tel Aviv Besiktas game regulation. Tel Aviv was up by 10, and yeah, and needed to go to overtime to beat
The
Besiktas.
the
So
Buducnost final is mandatory.
the
Yeah.
the Buducnost, you really need to go back.
Yeah.
All right. So this is where we'd actually go and look at next week's games. Uh let's see. Yeah, so actually before the next game is Christmas. Not everybody celebrates Christmas, but for those who do, which will probably be most of the listeners, um, we will have a podcast that comes out on the 25th. There's before the podcast, there's the Valencia League Cabela's game,
Yeah.
and then we have the 26th is Ulm facing Besiktas, and then it's the 2nd and 3rd of January is the remaining games of round 13. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about those games really quick, and then we'll let you go. And we will have a podcast for you on Christmas for Christmas Day. So it's our Christmas present to you
Yeah.
guys. So round 13, what are you watching?
Round 13. This season, EuroCup is making me very difficult to select some teams. And I think the easy election always is going towards Gran Canaria's games in Group A because uh, he in the 50% of the times he's going to get a direct rival from the top or the bottom. So Gran Canaria will host Hapoel Tel Aviv. Hapoel Tel Aviv is in a very low mood right now, but I think the Canaries can make this a victory. This is a good opportunity for them. Also, Tel Aviv is having some time to adjust things, to have some sessions with the 2Ds, and to grow a little bit. So this is going to be interesting in that way. Hapoel Tel Aviv is we gotta see this team like in a playoff vision, not right now, and I think they are going to reach their best version in the playoffs.
Yeah, the Ulm Besiktas games 8-4,
Hmm.
7-5 is a really big one. Turk Telekom against Bourg 7-5, 6-6. Wolves 6-6 against Juventud. Juventud need to win that game. They lost the first game against Wolves by 23, so that's a direct competitor for the spots in the playoffs. I have Cluj at 6-6 hosting Hamburg. If Hamburg actually want to make the playoffs, they really have to win that game at 3-9, 3 games behind. That would get the Cluj in there. And Lead Cabelas, Lead Cabelas, they're most likely going to be 3-9 when they play against Cedevita. So also have to win that game. So yeah, loads of action. Again, before we have those games, we'll have Christmas already. So, um, Sergio, I guess why don't we? Anything else that you want to talk about for this past week ahead before we say goodbye?
I think everything's set. So all I
Everything's
gotta
set.
say is happy holidays and happy Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to everybody. Sergio, let them know where they can find you.
Yeah. Llebes on 11, double Lebres 11.
And I'm at Hein News, HeinNews. This has been the Gone Traveling Podcast, looking at the road to greatness of the BKT EuroCup. We will talk to you for Christmas.